Okay, shush up.
Wait, is this lab 11?
Yep. So I'm recording, so keep it down, please. So yes, shh. Coding languages, they all have this ability where you can create a block of code that you can use over and over again just by using the name of the block that you call it. So I'm going to make a block of code that takes in a number. I'll just say int for now, and I'm going to call it countdown. Okay? That's the name of my command. Notice how int main has brackets here? I'm also going to give this one brackets as well, and we'll explain what that does in a moment. So most things in C++ require curly brackets. Any code I put in here now will run if I just use the word countdown in here. So I'm going to count down from 10 in my code here. The way I do that is I make a loop, right? And that loop has to have a variable inside of it that gets created. That's always the first thing that gets put in a for loop. You could call that variable whatever you want. I'm going to call mine 10. Or I, sorry.
Attention students, all grade 11s with the last names between A to S, please make your way down to the second floor L code for your picture retake.
There you go.
Thank you.
Now,
A to S, right?
yeah. Now, what I want to do is make sure this loop runs as long as I is greater than 0. Maybe greater than or equal to 0. So that's going to ensure my loop runs when it's 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and 0, and then stop. So I have to tell it that I want I to drop down by 1. Go minus, minus, like that. Great. Now, in here, I'm going to write the numbers. Since I is going from 10 to 0, I'm just going to print that in a for loop. It's going to be inside of this word countdown. When I run my code, nothing will happen. Yeah, you can go. Yeah. No, it's by the main office. Yeah. Okay, so nothing happens except, watch this, guys. I'm going to write the word countdown here with empty brackets. Watch what happens now. It counted down from 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Don't worry why it says that right now. It's because I didn't put a return statement in here. Notice how my main has a return 0. Here I'll put a return 0. Just for now I'll put a return 0. So when I run this code, let me run the debugger and see what it does. I'm going to put a stop sign right here. I'm going to hit F8 to run my code. Okay. And now I'm on this line, but I haven't run it yet. Countdown. What happens if I go next line? It just skips to return 0 and stops. Okay, let me run it again. That same stop sign. But there's a button here that says step into. So if it sees the word countdown, watch where the code goes. Do you see that? Just close that. As soon as it sees the word countdown here, it's going to jump into this code up above the main and run it all. So it's a way to run a block of code just by calling one word. Why would that be useful? Why not just put this code in my main? Yeah. The best reason is, suppose this is a really boring one, but let's say I needed to do this. Let's say I had a code that was like 10,000 lines long, and I needed to do this like 50 times. I could either copy and paste this and just keep coding it 50 times, or I could just, every time I wanted to do it, I could write the word countdown, and I would know. It's like a little, I've made a little shortcut for myself, basically. Yeah?
Like, how does it know that like, block of 4 text, right?
Yeah?
Is countdown. It's labeled as countdown. How does it know?
Up here. Yeah, I made it like a variable, basically. Kind of like the way main works. Yeah?
But aren't you just introducing it, sir?
Yeah, I'm introducing it, and then I'm going and calling it when I need to.
So at any time.
So I could call it whatever I wanted. I could call it Leo. And then if I say the word Leo down here, it knows to jump in and run this code.
Is it have to be under it, or can it be?
It always has to be above the int main. Here's
What does int do?
nothing for now, but I'll show you later what we can use it for. Okay. But you have to give it a type to start, and right now I'm just returning the number 0, but later on we'll return stuff that could be useful to us. Now, here's one other thing we can do. Inside the brackets, we could put in a variable and we could give it any name we want. I'm already using I inside of here, so I don't want to do that. Maybe I'll use just the word num. And instead of 10 here, I'll write num. And this won't run. This will give me an error because it's looking for a number inside of these brackets now. Watch. It gives me an error and it says you are missing an argument in your function. Okay, what does that mean? Well, what it means is this function now has some variability to it. Whatever number I type in here is what it'll start at now. So if I type 50, it'll count down from 50. See that?
Where do you type 50?
You type 50 inside the brackets.
Where's the prompt?
There's no prompt for these. That's the nice thing about it. You just code them. Okay? So as soon as I put a variable in here, and I can put as many as I want. I'm only going to put one variable in there. But it replaces the number 10 with a variable. So if I want to count down from 14, now it makes my code really much cleaner and more portable. Right? Now it counts down from 14. What if I say 27? It counts down from 27. I don't really have to go in and change anything in my code. I've kind of got this command that will just count down from whatever I want it to.
So then, Mr. Rosingo,
Yeah?
how do we get the user to enter in how many times?
You would do something like this. You would say enter your countdown or whatever, right? You'd have to make a variable called like CD. You would get them to type it in like that, and then you would put CD here. Because it's expecting them to type in an integer and then place it in there. So if now it works, if they type 41, it counts down from 41.
Mr. B?
Yeah.
So you know the top portion of the code?
Yeah.
Could you have like a bunch of code in between those two and then do the thing that repeats it? You do it like in between code, or does it have to be right under it?
All your functions, yeah, all of your functions that you make your own commands, they always have to be above the int main, and then there can't be any code in here. They can't make variables and stuff.
So you can't put like.
You can't like put like that, something like that. Okay, you always want to do that inside of here. Okay, we're trying to turn our code into just little chunks of information. Okay. You want to try to avoid later on when you make bigger projects and having all of your code in the main, because it's nice if you can think of good ways to keep little chunks of it. Like, let's look at this for example, just really quickly, okay? I'm going to create a new, or let me open a project in grade 12. We're doing something called well, here's a student's project. They made a zombie game in grade 12. A zombie game. Okay? Here's what it looks like. Okay, you gotta like shoot the targets. And these things follow you and you lose health and stuff. The plane drops like little power-ups and you can kill these things and so on and so forth. So he made this game. Okay. Just in C++ in grade 12. You gotta kill these little power-up thingies. How many times do I gotta hit this? There we go. Okay. Okay, so that's his project, but if you look here at his main, it's actually pretty big. It's like only 300 lines of code. But he's got a separate file with like 20 functions in it. Look at this one. This gets a little complicated, but he's got one called create box. And then it takes in a whole bunch of info and does something. It probably creates a box on the screen. He's got one called create circle. It takes in a whole bunch of numbers like an X and a Y and a radius and then draws a circle. create polygon. He's got them all in a different file so that if he needs to use them,
Literally copy and paste this stuff and then change it.
right? If he needs to use, here's one called display world. Simulates physics, renders shapes and steps through one step at a time. Set up, so there's all these little functions that you might want to use like 50 times in your project, but you don't want to have to write this code 50 times. Let's say every time he creates a circle in his code, he has to do this. He has to run 30 lines of code. So every time he wants to create a circle to make a little zombie, does he want to write all this code, or would he rather just write create circle and then pass it the X, the Y, and the R that it needs? Okay? Yeah, so that's why functions are important later on. But they're kind of a confusing idea at first, because you're like, what the heck? Why don't I just copy this code and paste it in my main and I'm done? And yes, when it's really easy, it's when your code is really simple and you're just making like 5 lines worth of code, then yeah, you never need to make your own commands. But later on you will, so it's important to know the structure of it. Okay? Now I'm going to make one more that has a return to it. Okay? So let's do that. Yeah?
With the int main bit of the code that you're showing now, what is that int cd1?
Oh, that's an error. That's an error. I'll get out of there. It was like a little tick. Okay. Let me make one more code. And this code is going to take in a name and write it backwards. Okay? So, should I make it an int, a float, or a string? What do you guys think? It's going to take in a name, somebody's name, and print it backwards. String, correct. What should we call the name of this command? No, it's going to take in a name and print it backwards. What would be a good name to give it? Backwards, maybe? And it's also going to have to take in something from the user. What type of variable should it take in? A string? It's going to spit out a string, so that's why I put string here. But it's also got to take in some word that someone's going to put in there, right? So I'm going to write it like that, and then I'll have my brackets like that. Okay. So let's just for now do something really simple inside of this command and just go cout word. Okay. There's the variable word. Let's see what it does. By running that command here. We have to run it in a cout because it actually is going to spit out a string type. So I'm going to write cout. It should auto type backwards, and then I can give it any word I want. So I'm going to give it the word tree. Oh, I'm still running the zombie game. Let me close that up. Close project. Great. So if I run that, it should just put the word tree on the screen. Whoa. That's so crazy. It does put tree, but then it puts a whole bunch of garbage.
I actually like seeing all that. It's pretty.
That was weird. Okay, I know why though. What I actually want to do here, guys, is go return tree or word. Okay, so it's going to return to the cout command whatever you type in the brackets. Okay, perfect. Tree. I want it to write backwards though. So how am I going to take this word variable and make it backwards? How do I make word? There's a lot of ways to take in a string and make it. What I'm going to do first is I'm going to make a string variable that's going to be temporary, and it's going to try to get that word to go backwards. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to loop through the word backwards. So I'm going to go for int I equals, there's 4 letters in there, so I'm going to start actually on the 3rd letter. And then I want it to run as long as I is greater than or equal to 0. And then I want I to count down. Okay. So what I essentially want to do here is I want to go temp equals, right? Word 3 plus word 2 plus word 1 plus word 0. Does that make sense? Would that print it out backwards? Would that print tree out backwards? Let's try it without the for loop. I'm just going to write temp here.
Wait, what is temp supposed to?
Whoa.
Mr. Vizigma,
Yeah?
what is temp supposed to?
It's just like a temporary variable here. So let's run it. Okay. Temp is now nothing. Oh, is that right? Yeah. That's weird. I thought you could add them like this. Yeah, that's right. Okay, so I'm gonna make a loop that runs through all the letters of word. So I need to make a I, and I need it to start at how long the word is, length. And I actually have to take one away from that. So if there's 9 letters in the word, I need to go from 0 to 8. So I'm starting at word.length minus 1. Then I'm going to run it as long as I is greater than or equal to 0, because I need it to run till the very first letter of the word. So, and then I'm going to make I go down by 1. I minus minus is the shortcut for that. Great. And then what I'm going to do is add to temp itself plus that letter of the word as it counts down. So if there's 9 letters in a word, it's going to add the 8th, then the 7th, then the 6th, then the 5th, then the 4th, and the 5th, and the 3rd, and the 2nd, and the 1, blah, 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 blah. Let's see if this works. I'm going to run it with the debug here. This is kind of a really complicated command, but it's in the lab, so I thought I would show you here. Okay, let's pick a word other than tree. Let's pick something longer than 4 letters. Tree root. Tree roots. Okay. Now I'm going to run it. My main only has 1 line of code. It's calling the command I just made called backwards with the word tree roots in it.
Attention students, would all students in grade 11 with last name G to M please head to the second floor alcove to have their photo retakes done. Thank you.
There you go. Okay, perfect. Have a look here. Look what my variable word is. It's tree roots. Why is word tree roots? Because that's what I passed into my command when I used it. So now word was set to whatever I passed it. Okay. Temp is empty. Good. I should be, how many letters are in here in tree roots? 9? So I should start at 8. And it does. And so it's going to add to my temporary variable the 8th letter of tree roots, which happens to be S. Then it's going to go through the loop. I is now 7. So it should add the second last letter to my temp. Good. I is now 6. It's adding O. Is it writing it backwards? It's adding the second letter, the first letter, and the 0th letter. And look what I have. It has made the temp variable now S-T-O-O-R-E-E-R, Stree, and then it quits. Then it returns it, which is what the cout is looking for. And it has taken my tree roots word and spit it out backwards. Look at that. Oh, wait. Do it. Look. Stu read. Okay? That is a very advanced function, but try Lab 11. See if you can get started on them. Some advanced ideas in there.